It's just what it's called. Go out, please. Gotta come in right now and ask me about ice cream.
That sounds about right.
Meanwhile, hello, everybody.
Hi.
Why is YouTube popping up with 12 billion things? Okay. So, hi, Lisa. What you working on?
I am working on a big project. I was hoping to finish it, but I don't think I will.
Ever?
This weekend.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm putting in all this effort knowing it's not going to be ever done.
I made a couple months ago, at someone's request, I made a brain cell. So I've been requested to make another one, so I'm working on that.
Well, there you go.
No idea if I'll have enough done for it to even look like I'm working on that by the end of today, but.
I reminded Karen she should be here soon.
I was just about to say, and where is your sister?
I reminded her, but.
Whew, man, I was sleepy.
It's one of those days.
Weeks, months, lives, you know. Well, I didn't want to start talking about the book until Karen gets here, but.
We don't want to wait too long for her.
Right? Hey, this is the first time in a long time that we're actually both crocheting.
Oh, yeah. Usually one of us is doing something else.
One or both. Everybody's going to be super interested watching us. We're just sitting here crocheting and like.
This is my map, by the way. It's seen better days.
Yeah. So this is the one that was going to be done the beginning of March.
Yeah. This one. Yeah.
I mean, I still haven't finished the gift for our coworker that was supposed to be done mid-February, so.
Sounds like we're right on schedule then.
Pretty sure. All right.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I don't know if she's coming today now. I'm like, where is she? I don't know.
Well, let's start talking about gossip.
Right,
That's the name of the first chapter.
I like how they didn't really like spend time just like quickly speeding through the next 3 years. I like how they just kind of said what changed over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah.
What I didn't remember for some reason was that Brooks went to war.
I don't even remember if it actually had said that at the end of the last one.
Because that confused me for a minute when they said he was only there a year before he got injured. And then I'm like, okay.
I didn't know he was there at all.
Well, that's also what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
remember this. I don't. I'm like, is that me?
Yeah, no, I don't remember them saying it at the end of the last one at all. Or maybe possibly in the brief segment of, like, as they were talking about needing to wait until Meg's older. Maybe they briefly mentioned that he would go off to war as part of it or something.
Maybe.
But
But
I have a feeling that whatever it was, if it was in there at all, it was like just kind of tucked in amongst a whole lot of other stuff.
yeah, because I didn't remember it.
Hey, I found a Karen.
There's a Karen? Yay!
I'm
She's
here.
coming.
I'm here.
She does exist.
I do exist. I guess. It has been changed to work time entrance, and now it's a little bit rougher for me to get in here on time. Sorry.
All right.
Well, we're happy to see you anyway. And I can't seem to stop yawning. Sorry about that.
So
Hey.
did you get through any of the chapters this time, Karen?
I did. I reread the last chapter from last time, and there was several points that I thought, like, if I'd read him last time, I would have pointed out as Joe and Lori moments. There's like,
She's so focused on Joe and Lori.
I'm so like, even at the end of chapter 24, he's like, "Mark my words, Joe, you'll be next." Like, okay, I love Joe and Lori. Okay, I can't help it. She's just zipping her lips. She's,
Like that moment where he kind of looks away when he says, "You shove all the boys away." I'm
I
like,
just love
Karen's gonna
her.
eat this up.
And the wedding was so cute. I did like the wedding. So
I was wondering how you guys would react to a lot of those things. Before we get to that though, to the wedding, in the gossip chapter, which is hilarious because it's like the least gossipy thing ever. But what did you think about the changes that they'd each gone through? The differences to each of them and the ways that they were still the same.
I was surprised about Beth.
I'm not, like, sometimes when illness that bad can last for, like, just look at me. It took me a long time to get over COVID. Like, I've still had breathing issues over a year later after COVID, and she went through scarlet fever, which made her even more bad than I was.
I'm still not over my long COVID fully, and that was over a year ago. COVID sucks, man.
Yeah, you got it worse
Apparently,
than
so
I
does
did,
scarlet
though.
fever.
Oh.
Like, yeah, like she was so feverish she wasn't even conscious. Like, she couldn't leave her bed. Like, she had literally had to have people waiting on her hand and foot.
I've
Like,
only been sick that bad once, and that was with the swine flu.
yeah. I didn't get the swine flu. I had the flu, but I got sent home with Lisa, who had the swine flu.
Karen, I got sent home with you.
Oh, I just had the flu, and she had the swine flu.
How you manage that?
I don't know how. Like, almost everybody, like a bunch of people at the school got swine flu, and I just
They
got the
sent
flu.
us home by the van loads. It was bad.
Yeah, they were sending people home left and right. As soon as the van would come back, they'd send more out.
Anyway.
And I had a job at the time, and I was like, look, I know I'm scheduled for a few shifts, but I'm out of town for like 2 weeks.
I'm gonna turn my do not disturb on.
Probably a good idea.
I have a coworker trying to get me to come in early today. Ah!
Tell the coworker new.
I did, and then she's like, come in at 8. And I was like, no, I've got book club 7 to 8. I'm not even gonna come in any earlier than usual. She's like, well, can you at least come in at 9? I was like, I just said I can't come in any earlier than usual.
Hey,
I know exactly what she's talking about too.
Now we're getting to the gossip.
Right?
That's about it.
Wrong kind of gossip.
I'm trying to sort through in my brain. I'm trying to remember which parts were in that chapter and which parts were in the next chapter. So they were at the little house, the Dovecote, cleaning and everything. And what do you think of Laurie?
I'm not surprised by how Laurie turned out because he's still a prankster.
Yeah, he's still sending joke gifts and. Oh, I did like the little bit about how Amy was the eye of all of his friends, and Joe was just like one of the boys. That's early on in the chapter. It just seemed like such a Joe thing.
It did. I'm like, yep, Joe's still one of the boys.
And then Amy ended up.
I do feel
the-
like as he's gotten older, Laurie seems like he's gotten a little bit snarkier. Like even if he had been taller when they said that he needed to grow up, that comment he made about I'm trying, but 6 feet is about as much as you can make. I feel like the Laurie of a couple of years ago wouldn't have made a comment like that to at least most of them. Maybe to Joe he would have, but like
he grew out of his shell a little bit.
Yeah. Hard to say for better or for worse in some ways.
Well, like he was mostly homeschooled before he really started hanging out with them, and then he went off to college and met more guys. We're definitely not like the ladies of the March House.
Yep.
Oh, that was in the next chapter, but okay.
Yeah. I was just trying to remember which chapter that was. I was like,
I know I was gonna say something, but it's in the next chapter.
I was too, and it could be on the same topic, in fact. It's funny because Joe's like, she's making him promise that he's gonna be gonna behave himself, he's gonna do all these things correctly, and he's gonna whatever, and like, don't you dare ruin her day and everything. And then at the same time she also is still like, horrible weddings, breaking up families, it's a terrible thing to do. And like it's funny to me that like 3 years later she's like halfway between what, right, like halfway between, like, I mean 3 years later she's 18 now, and she's still like halfway between, I'm happy for my sister and want her wedding to go really well, I want her to have a really nice day, and then also like, weddings are terrible, why do people have to get married, and why can't things just stay as they've always been?
Well, I think it's also back then you lived with your family until you were married, and so her sister getting married means her sister leaves the house, and that means she doesn't get to see her sister all the time every day, and that's a really big change.
It's funny to me though, because in so many other ways she's the most adventurous one. And
yeah, but
so
I feel like she's also the closest to her family.
She
like when Beth was sick, she wouldn't leave Beth's side. Like Joe seems to be the one who's most like family glued. Like she needs her family next to her. Although she may be adventurous, she needs her family right there.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like in a lot of books and things, the adventurous one is the one who doesn't need that. And I think it's interesting that she's the most adventurous one, and then she also is the one who needs the family right there the majority of the time, and like hates the idea of family getting separated and things. I'm going to mute for just a second.
No, see, I wasn't surprised about Amy in the gossip because she always was going to be a social flower. Amy was. I was
Yeah.
happy to see that Meg matured. Like she still wanted some of those things that, you know,
The dresses, the servants, the big
the
house.
space, the servants, the dresses, and she kept comparing herself to one of her school friends that got married, and then she just remembered, like, I don't need all of that stuff. She's like, I have Mr. Brooks, I have John, that is enough. And I liked that. I like seeing that. It was very relatable because, you know, everybody nowadays always wants more, but as long as you can be content with what you have, you know, it's fun to wish for more, but you got to be happy with what you have.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked Meg's point of view as she grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another
I
thing,
agree.
Amy was taking art lessons at Aunt March's instead of Joe taking care of her. Amy did, like she did when their father was sick. Oh no, when Beth was sick, that's what it was. And Amy was at Aunt March's all that time. It said that instead she liked Amy so much that she just kept Amy and gave her art lessons.
I do think that Miss Aunt March does have a soft spot for Amy since she stayed there for a while. Like
I
she
think-
just grew really used to Amy.
I think Aunt March and Amy are a better fit than Aunt March and Joe anyway.
Joe was doing it out of duty. She didn't want to.
She was more than happy to give it to Amy. Let's just say that. I didn't want what happened to Amy going to school though, like because it didn't mention her finishing school.
Amy was homeschooled, remember? They pulled her out of school from the lemon incident.
Lime
Incident. Thank you. She had been taught by her sisters beyond that point.
I totally forgot about that.
I did not.
Well,
Oh shoot. I was only supposed to do
That
3.
was a while ago. You gotta get me. That was a while ago.
was there anything else in that chapter before we move on to the wedding?
Honestly, it was just a lot of catching up on the character, on how they changed appearance wise and attitude wise, I guess.
Yeah. Which was some growth, but not a lot of change. Like, so the amount of growth you would expect in 3 years for teenagers without it being an unbelievably excessive amount or irritatingly no change at all type amount.
So I think now it makes like Joe 20 ish.
What?
And
No,
the
Joe's
ages-
18.
no, because she was the 3-year gap. She's 1 year behind Meg.
Meg's
Meg-
19.
She had to wait till she was 21 to get married. Remember the 3-year gap?
I thought she was 20.
You know what? Joe would have been 16 at the end of the last one because she was 15 at the beginning, and it had been a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
year. So Joe would be
But-
19.
Right, and Meg would be 20.
Meg's birthday might be like earlier in the year
And
because Joe's birthday was in the fall.
So she might be 18. Joe might be 18. 19.
No, I mean Joe would be 19, but if Meg had to wait till she was 21, if she's
No, she
20,
had to
that
wait
makes
till-
sense. But if Meg had to wait till she was 21, then it might be that Joe's like almost 20,
18.
but just hasn't quite gotten to her birthday yet.
No, I think it was 20. I think I had it wrong. I think it was 20, not 21. And that
Okay.
Joe would be 18, 20, 18, 19.
somewhere in the
And
vicinity.
yeah. And then I forget, Beth was a couple years behind. So she'd be 16, 17, 16, 17.
Yeah, Beth was 13 when Joe was 15, so.
And Amy
So
was
she'd be
12.
17,
Yeah,
and that puts
And-
Amy at 16.
Amy's 15, 16, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Actually, I
I
think they
wanted
said that
to-
Amy is 15. Yeah, I think they said that Amy was 15.
I just wanted us to get updated on their ages because I'm still seeing Amy as a little girl.
Like
Yeah,
11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta think in my head. She's older now. She's
Honestly, though, if you think about it, like, I've been thinking a lot about this. My niece is 10 years old. And so she's got a lot of attitude. It comes with the age.
My son is 11. I know.
So I'm thinking about it, and like I remember when we first started reading this book, I was really frustrated with the way Amy behaved. Like it really bothered me the way Amy behaves. And now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, if you think about her age, it makes sense.
It does. Any individual 10 to 14-year-old on an individual one-on-one basis, I can like, but groups of them, the way that they feed off of each other and kind of bring out the worst in each other, drive me nuts. It was always my least favorite age group when I was a camp counselor. So, or that was the 12 to 14-year-olds were the least favorite age group because the 10 and 11-year-olds were still it was an 8 to 11-year-old age range, so they didn't play off of each other as much because they still had the younger kids there. But you could have those same 11-year-olds then be with the 12 to 14-year-olds, and suddenly they'd start acting just like them. And oh man, I like clawing my hair off my head, like why are teenagers? So I think that's a big part of why I've never been particularly fond of Amy, is because she so thoroughly reminds me of the things I don't like about that age group.
I still think that Amy is shallow. She is very attracted to monetary value.
but at the same time, she's also the one who, when Beth was sick, wrote a will. So she's also really kind of realistic at the same time.
True.
I'm trying to figure out if realistic is the word I wanted to use. I'm trying
Well,
to-
like,
Pragmatic. Anyway, what, Lisa?
in the second, it is in the second chapter that we read, but she was talking about how their friend Susan had 4 maids.
Yes. Keep talking. I just need to find some Polly.
And Meg was like, I don't need any maids, and Joe was like, if they had 4 maids, they wouldn't have room for themselves.
Yeah, she'd be like, they'd take up the house and they'd have to live in the garden.
The maids would get the house.
And the mom was like, I wish I didn't have as many maids as I had because it took. I just wish for something to need mending and.
Yeah, but just that's the way Amy came off to me. Like she's still in the same mindset of wanting everything. She still wants it all.
Well, if you remember, that Meg was around that age when she went to that slumber party. She was probably a year older, and she realized that all this extravagance and all this socialite stuff just wasn't for her.
Yeah.
And it took being around that, and even then she still kind of longs for it and has to, as you were saying earlier, has to remind herself that no, I don't need that.
This is what makes me happier.
I like how oh, we're moving on to the second chapter.
Yeah, we can go
Good.
back to Grace.
I keep finding myself talk about the second chapter.
So let's go to the second chapter. The first
wedding.
wedding.
So the part that I didn't fully understand was the knick-knack joke. Like, I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right. So they were talking about somebody collecting all these different tins and pails, and
Lori was giving them to the to be married couple,
yes,
along with a lot of gifts that were not great, like soap that would take the skin off your hands, or cement that would only stick to your hands, or things that didn't work. A nutcracker that broke the first time you used it, like things.
It sounded like a combination of him giving them
joke gifts.
See, I'm not sure that they were joke gifts. It's more like he kept trying to buy things that he assumed would be useful that were being like I don't know, kind of like the equivalent of somebody just sitting there calling all the like telemarketing
buying as seen on TV. Oh, this looks good.
Yeah, something like that. Except like the 1860s version of this, which would be traveling salesman, essentially. No, this is the thing that you need. This is perfect for thus and such and thus and such, and oh, that'll be great for my friend who's getting married. And when you combine it with the conversation that I'm jumping to the end, but the conversation that Jo has with him about money and how everybody keeps borrowing money from you and wanting money from you and whatever, the like Lisa was saying earlier, he was homeschooled and didn't really have a lot of he was homeschooled, not homeschooled the way Amy was. Amy was homeschooled by her
He was homeschooled by
sisters. Teddy was taught by a private tutor. He didn't, if it weren't for the girls next door, he had like nobody around him his own age. He's always been a very sensitive kind of person anyway, and he doesn't have a very good understanding of what it is to not have money or how to manage money. So my inclination is that he's got a lot of people taking advantage of him, including supposed friends at college and traveling salesmen who are selling him junk that he thinks is going to be so good for the married couple. I don't know. That's my reading of it. And I don't remember if this is elaborated on more or not. I have no memory of this portion of the book at all, or this aspect of Lori from the book. So I'm purely speculating, but that was how I interpreted it reading the chapter or listening to it.
See, I could see that, but at the same time, they've always depicted him as kind of a jokester like Jo, him and Jo would always do those, and then there was the prank that he played on Meg. So he's always been kind of the jokester. So
yeah, he is, but
so I could see what you're saying, like he's not used to people and they could take advantage of him. Very easily could happen.
Well, it's the way that those things are described, like things like giving them a bunch of like random tins that they have no use for, could be anything from a joke to exactly what it's like getting married today still, like, oh, more, I have nowhere I'm gonna no idea where I'm gonna put these. And did anybody actually look at my registry of the things I actually wanted?
I gotta be honest, I'm one of those people that don't shop the registry just because a lot of the things that people put on the registry cost a lot of money.
Okay, but if you at least get like an idea of it and give them something that, like, if everybody gives them like this, these like tins to put things in their kitchen or whatever, like I mean, it was the old joke, back in the 50s, 60s of, oh, another toaster, oh, another toaster. And now it's, I don't even know what it is now, but but it's always been that. And I feel like it's possible that like the tins and jars and things could have been Lori just thinking they'd be useful and they weren't. It could have been Lori being a jokester. It could have been any number of things, really. But the way that they describe the things that keep breaking and the stuff for the silver that ruins the silver doesn't sound to me like jokes that Lori would play. Like some of them, like the, oh, it broke after one use. Like he might play a joke like that. I don't know where he would procure something like that. Joke shops weren't really a thing at the time, but like something that would actually ruin their silver, I don't think he would do something like that. And I think that he was just being gullible and taken advantage of.
Well, because when he gave him her gift, I think it was at the end of of chapter 24, he specified that it was a joke.
Which one?
The gift that he gave her, that he gave Meg. Remember, he comes in and he's like talking to everyone, and as he's doing so, she goes and explains what he does as he says each phrase to each person, and he hands Meg a present, and then I think it was Joe that said that it was a joke.
But which thing was that particular one?
I don't know if we found out what was in the gift. It was what was in the package. But I was just wondering if, based on what you said, maybe everything else was good intentioned, and that one was meant to be the joke gift. But I may have read it wrong.
I don't know. And I once again don't have my book right here because I can't figure out for the life of me where I put it.
Ken's like, hold on a second. She's got her copy right there.
My very pretty
My
copy.
copy ended with part 1, so
Yeah.
my copy is no longer relevant. End of
My
24
very
when
pretty-
Lori shows up.
Very pretty copy.
Care.
Huh?
End of
I gotta go-
24 when Lori shows up
Yep. I'm going
and is
to-
passing out the gift and stuff.
Let's see.
She's using my bookmark.
I am using a bookmark. Been using it this whole time. We've been reading this book since Halloween. Let's see. Let's see. Da, 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 da. He says, take seriously what I'm about, I want to talk seriously about tomorrow. Not a prank. Feel like I have gone not far enough. Okay, Toodles is coming. Da, 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 okay, so with the makers, congratulations and compliments. He delivered a brown parcel to Meg. pulled Beth's hair ribbon and stared at Joe's big pinafore and fell into an attitude of mock rapture before Amy, and then shook hands all around.
Right, and then I think it's a couple paragraphs later.
What's the last joke? Undo the bundle and see Meg.
What's the last joke?
Yeah, what's the last useful thing to have in our house in case of fire or thieves?
Oh, it was a bell. That's right. That's what was in the package. It was one of those bells.
I totally missed that part listening to
Because
it. This
then
is
he
why I
like
should
rang
read
it
them,
out
not
as an
listen to them.
example.
It doesn't actually say what it is. It's a knobby package, is all I've gotten so far. So it's,
He rang it out and really loudly.
anytime John is away and you get frightened, Meg, just swing that out the window and arouse the neighbors in a jiffy. Nice thing, isn't it? Devil Powers made them cover their ears. So it sounds like some sort of sound making device. It could be a bell.
Anyway,
they're
yeah,
like,
that's
"Will
what
you
I'm
ever
talking
grow up?"
about.
And he's like, "I'm doing my best, but I can't get much higher for 6 feet as much." Da-da-da.
Dork.
She's all distracted in the book now.
Yeah, I'm not.
I can't remember how I did this last time.
So I don't know if it's last prank or, the only prank, but
You did say last prank. It literally says last. So
probably some of the others he gave were pranks
some
as
of them
well.
are pranks. At least.
Um,
Anyway,
moving on.
so they get married, and Aunt Marcia's scandalized because they're
She's
not following
challenged that Meg would marry
any
Vanessa.
traditions.
None.
The bride came to greet her at the door. Like,
She's like, you are not supposed to see anyone until after you're married.
you're supposed to be the last one people see.
People freaked out about me not following traditions in my wedding, and like, I at least followed that one.
I planned Karen's wedding. She followed a lot of traditions.
Jonathan and I are us. So we went through the reasons for all of the traditions and also the current meaning it holds, even if it's not part of the traditional or original reason. And if it held meaning to us currently, then we did it. And if it did not, we didn't.
Seems like a good way to do it.
Which is why we did not throw the bouquet. And stood on the opposite side of what's traditional up front.
I think Karen did it opposite too. I think actually.
But Jonathan
Jonathan
was sitting there going, "Do we need to have like bridesmaids and groomsmen?" And I'm like, "Yes, because we have a lot of people who are very special to us." And he's like, "But we're getting married. They're not." And I was like, and like the original reason for bridesmaids was because of fear of bride snatching and having other people dressed up as the same as the bride, so that if somebody came to try to kidnap the bride on the wedding day, then they didn't know which one was the bride.
Or the groom's running away.
And so he's like, clearly we don't need that. And he would have been very, very happy if our wedding had consisted of him, me, his mother, his sister, and the pastor. So it's fine. We only had like 250 people there.
I didn't have that many. It was very small. That took place in our backyard.
His parents are missionaries who have, at that point, have been in various places between Pennsylvania and Maine. That and with a lot of people that they worked with that had known him growing up and things. And we both come from big families. Like, it was going to be kind of all or nothing.
I will say
But
there was a few people I wish weren't at my wedding. That were there.
Anyway, but yeah, we did some things more traditionally than others. We just made sure that we knew why we were doing each part of what we were doing, because we like to have meaning behind what we do.
See, I'm going through the tradition of old maid at this point. Because at 32, in the time of this book, I'd be considered an old maid.
Oh gosh.
I'd be Miss March, Aunt March.
I mean, you're not exactly single, though.
No, I'm not single. I'm not married either. Not anywhere close.
I mean, you want me to talk to him about that for you?
Don't scare him away.
Just watch this be the one that he tunes in for.
Right?
Anyway, so yeah, they had their very small ceremony that sounds absolutely adorable. And they didn't even like have a processional or anything. They just kind of like appeared up front.
There was something about a screen.
What?
A paper screen.
Yeah, there was. I didn't quite get what they meant by that, though. I mean, I know what they mean by like a paper screen. I just
Like it was like a divider.
like everybody had already
sometimes.
seen them, so why? And they didn't like. I don't know.
Maybe they waited for him to be the last one to see her or something. I don't know.
No, because he was right there while she was in the kitchen.
She was
Like,
giving him the hammer for hanging up the garland that was falling, and
he was right there, seeing her in her dress.
I know. I just don't understand it.
What
Quiet,
I love was the
baby.
impromptu ball that Lori started.
They're
That
like,
was
oh,
cute.
married couples go dancing.
And then Mr. Lawrence goes up to Miss March and she's like, I don't want to dance with you. I don't want to dance with you. Like, poor Mr. Lawrence.
I thought she did dance with him.
I thought she shunned him and left him in the other circle. That's what I interpreted it as, is she shunned him and she's like she went to go dance, but not with him. That's how I read it. And I'm like, wow. Like, that's cold.
I don't know.
I could be completely wrong, but that's how I read it. Like, wow.
Like I said before, I probably should not be listening to it instead of reading it because I don't process things as well that way. But my time, it is limited.
I know what you mean.
Either way, I think that they're a hilarious combination, whether couple or frenemy. Let's see.
There was another part I didn't quite get, and this is the part that I was gonna mention, but I said it was like, oh, that's chapter 2. So at the end, when everything's winding down and everyone's leaving, Mr. Lawrence goes to get into his carriage. I assume he was getting in a carriage. That's how I saw it in my head. And he tells Lori to when was it when he gets married. Trying to remember how it was phrased, but it confused me because I didn't know if it meant that Mr. Lawrence thought that Lori should marry one of the March kids or if he should have them plan his wedding. Because, like, I'm trying to remember how it was phrased.
I don't remember it.
But
I remember like the conversation vaguely, but I don't remember what he said specifically.
Yeah, it was something about like the marches being there or something like that. But I felt like they could have gone either way. Like it could have been like Mr. Lawrence wanted him to marry one of the remaining 3 because they were so amazing, or if he when he does get married, have those 4 plan his wedding because of everything they did. That was my takeaway.
I like the friend that Meg's been kind of jealous of and kept having to remind herself not to be jealous of is like, that was one of the sweetest weddings I've ever seen. And I don't know why, because they didn't do any of the things that you're supposed to.
Right.
Yeah. If you ever want to indulge in this sort of thing, get one of those little girls to help you, and I should be perfectly satisfied. I think it's just the wedding planning, not the marriage. Married to one of them.
Okay. And then it's that conversation that Joe and Lori have, which is the part that's in chapter 2. That is what I was thinking of earlier. But I have already mentioned what I had been thinking of, which was the part about Lori being easily taken advantage of. But the reason that I was thinking about it earlier, when we were talking about, about chapter 1, and about the first chapter, was because we were talking about how Lori hadn't had a lot of friends, guy friends growing up, or known a lot of different people. And that's another part of why that, and the way that he's, Joe says, oh, you're so generous. And that's why you go through your money so fast. But I think he doesn't know how to say no to them. And he hasn't had those guy friends around growing up, and between not being how do I say this? Between being very sensitive, which we all know tends to make it more difficult to say no to people when you are the sensitive sort who doesn't want to hurt feelings, and also being less experienced with other people who might try to take advantage of him. I just think that it seems like that was being hinted at, kind of.
I do like that Lori has such a kind heart. Like, that hasn't changed about him.
No,
Like,
that has not changed. You're correct about that. Absolutely.
like, he has his quirks and he has his flaws and he loves his pranks, but he's still the good-natured, good-hearted person that he's always been. And I like that college didn't change him.
Well, except maybe make him a little snarkier.
Maybe a little.
There were
honestly, like, I'm not surprised. They said he got suspended a couple times and almost expelled, and I'm like, the trouble he gave Mr. Brooks, I'm not surprised.
There were two parts that had me thinking. I was wondering what you guys were, you guys and your shippiness were thinking. And one part, Karen has already mentioned about as they were walking, and he was talking about how, you just scare the boys away. You run them off when they try to say something, and she's like, "That's why I don't like marriage, and it breaks families up, and it's a terrible thing." And which is in and of itself kind of hilarious, because like breaking families up is usually something people think of as like separating people from marriage, not marriage.
They even said that she doesn't live that far away. Like, she's near.
She's walking distance.
Right?
And then, mark my words, Joe, you'll be next. But then the other part, because Lisa was talking, I don't remember if it was last session or the session before, about something about Lori and Amy.
Yeah.
And so when they came out dancing, Lori was with Amy. But then he was walking home with Joe and talking to her about that. And like, I was listening to all of that, like, I wonder how Lisa and Karen are reacting to any of this.
It's a ship war. Lisa with Lori and Amy, me with Lori and Joe.
So it's not that like I ship Amy and Lori. It's just I think that's how the story's gonna go.
She lies.
It's not that that's my favorite couple. Honestly, if I have to say my favorite couple, because I know it's not a relationship story, but if I had to pick my favorite couple, it would have to be Meg and Mr. Brooks, because I don't know, I just love Meg's character so much. Like, I love Meg's character. But yeah, I'd have to say they're my favorite pair.
Words I want to say, but I do not want to give any spoilers. Suffice it to say, eventually we will be done with this book, and then I will tell you my favorite couple.
All right.
So, how far did everybody get on your crafts?
I finished a row.
Yay!
Which is a lot of work.
Karen, I never even asked you what you were working on because you were late.
Oh, I was late, yes.
Which I really didn't mean as like a slight, but just we'd already talked about it.
Dare you.
There. Hold on. Got to
You weren't
find
very
some-
early. I was running late too. I just was getting it up right exactly at 7.
I was gonna say, I think I was here first. I came on at 5 and I'm like, nobody's here.
No. Were you?
Well, I got home. I had to walk the dog, feed the cats, like, and all the stuff I had to do. Before I could even think about getting to my office
Ooh.
and my craft supply done.
I think you got quite far.
I have the center of the neuron and one of the spikes that will stick out, but ultimately it will be all spikes sticking out and a pink center. I mean, basically they become a mesh that spikes out with pink that you can just kind of see through the mesh. And
It's
then,
not quite finished, but
and then I'm thinking about making a brain to hold it after.
So what'd you make, Karen?
well, I made this one already.
I
And,
love
this is the one that I've been working on all session. I just gotta finish. I gotta sturdy the inside and then put the little loop. that's
I'm like
here.
sticking my forehead in the camera as I like lean to the screen to look at it.
I'm sorry,
it's a
really
pinwheel.
excited. It's a pinwheel.
I like,
Lisa actually has a pink, green, and purple version of these that I gave her for Christmas. And I really like the design. It's very simple, easy design.
Da-da-da. See? This is the one she gave me for Christmas.
Caroline's not even looking.
I was trying to
The viewers can watch.
find.
It's a very pretty earring.
Still waiting for her to
Alright.
look.
So nice.
That's the one she made me for Christmas. That's the one she just made.
And then I'm working on it.
Next we have Chapter 26, Artistic Attempts, and Chapter 27, Literary Lessons.
So I think it's gonna be Amy and Joe the next 2 chapters. Amy for the art and Joe for the literature. That's my guess.
I mean,
I mean, Joe is writing for the paper now. She's getting paid $1 a column.
after that, the titles are Domestic Experiences, Calls, Consequences, Our Foreign Correspondent.
Yeah, well, domestic must be about Meg's life as a married woman.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, okay. But yeah, for next time, chapters 26 and 27, Artistic Attempts and Literary Lessons. For now, I'm going to end the meeting, so everybody say bye.